Thanks for joining me for this really quick recap of the first session where we looked at what growth mindset is. So this is just going to be a few minutes giving you a really light touch overview, introducing the concept of growth mindset. Thursday, the 21st of October, we're going to start one of 3 sessions looking more in depth at kind of how to develop a growth mindset and looking at strategies that work. So this is just, as I say, a really quick overview. First thing to say about growth mindset is that it's nothing new. It has been around for quite a while. It was first coined by an American psychologist called Carol Dweck, and this is the book that she wrote, which was based on many years of working with people. Totally encourage you to read it. In it, she talks about how there are essentially 2 mindsets that she's observed in people, and they're very, very different, and they lead to very different outcomes. I think that's what's interesting for me, is that neither one of them is wrong, and I don't need to think that if you don't have a growth mindset, there's something wrong with you. Not at all, not at all. And I like to think I have a growth mindset. If I'm being honest, I don't have a growth mindset every single day. Certainly don't have it all day. It doesn't make me bad or wrong. But what is interesting is that there's a question I think we can ask ourselves: what is this a useful approach to develop? And I think categorically it is. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a quick rundown of what a growth mindset is and what the opposite is. And we're going to start with that. And she coins fixed mindset and growth mindset. So you might find yourself kind of reflected in these descriptions. You'll definitely see other loved ones appear in these descriptions. A fixed mindset basically describes a person who tends to believe that you're born with your skills and attributes, and they're fixed. So you're either good at something or you're not. And a person with a fixed mindset might think, natural ability, and there's no point in pursuing other things if I'm not naturally good at it, because I'll never be, because it's fixed. I'm good at it or not. So the beliefs that kind of underpin that means that failure, and I can't emphasize this enough, failure is bad, because the fixed mindset tends to see things in that binary term of it's good or bad, and being wrong is bad. So we must avoid that at all costs. So a fixed mindset doesn't, if you have a fixed mindset, you're not going to be embracing failure. You'll resist failure because you think it's a bad experience. Other beliefs, as I say, is that you're born with your talents. You're unlikely to be able to learn things, that you're not naturally good at. Intelligence is fixed. So people are born clever or not. Your IQ is set at birth. And because of these beliefs, we see that playing out in kind of how people approach life, really. So when I've had a fixed mindset, I might avoid challenges. I might be resistant to things that push me out of my comfort zone, because I don't want to fail, because failure is bad. So I'm just going to avoid it altogether. When we have a fixed mindset, we might give up when something's really hard. And you might think of times in life where you've said things to yourself like that, where it's like, oh, there's no point, I'm never going to be good at this. Or think about other people, oh, they're never going to be good at this. So we tend to give up. And often, actually, when we give up, we might then blame other people. So the reason I'm not good at this is because I was not born with these talents, or the reason I'm not good at this is because I haven't had the education, or I've never had opportunity, or nobody told me. But when something's tough and we kind of come across that challenge, fixed mindset tends to tell us give up. Feedback, when we receive feedback, a bit like failure, we tend to see it in binary terms as either good feedback or bad feedback. And if the feedback is bad, in a fixed mindset, we tend to discard it. We tend to ignore it if it's negative. And I think there's underpinning that is this idea that I'm bad because I've done something wrong, and because I've failed, that means I'm not good at something and therefore I'm bad. So you can kind of see how that crazy eight kind of can kick in. So it's best to just ignore the negative feedback, or we might get defensive about it and push back. When other people experience success and achieve success, people in a fixed mindset tend to not like that, tend to resent it, often feel threatened by it. I know I can think of moments in my life where that's true. Which is to my shame, but if we're being honest, yeah, I can think of times. The fixed mindset is it's almost like there's a finite amount of success available. So if somebody else is being successful, that means I'm not. So we don't like that. So we tend to feel threatened or resent it. So that's a kind of a run through a fixed mindset. You might spend a lot of your time in it now. You might think of times in your life where you've adopted that mindset. It's okay. I don't want you to think that fixed mindset is bad. It's not at all. It's just an approach. And I would ask you to kind of reflect, if you do think that you've got a fixed mindset, about how it's serving you and whether it's getting you the results that you want. Because if it isn't, you might want to adopt a growth mindset, which we'll now look at. The growth mindset's fairly the opposite to fixed. People with a growth mindset believe that you can achieve anything, that the emphasis is on hard work. So the emphasis is on commitment, perseverance, effort, rather than innate skills and abilities. So it matters less about what you're naturally good at, and what matters more is about work ethic and commitment and learning the new skills. So beliefs underpinning that is that you can develop anything, you can develop any talent, any skill. You can what the most important thing to success is effort, and if you try hard enough, it will get you to success. How we feel about failure is completely different in growth mindset. Failure, when we have a growth mindset, is like a beautiful thing because it's totally natural. People in a growth mindset understand that failure is an absolutely integral part of life, and that because you're not born with knowledge and all of these skills, we've got to learn them. And learning means failure. If you think about the child, the baby, when they start to take a few steps, they don't just suddenly walk, they fall down hundreds and hundreds of times. But the parents generally are always, come on, let's keep going, get back up, you can do it. And that's it. In growth mindset, we kind of keep that attitude as we grow up. So failure is natural, it's a very normal part of life. And because of that, we can accept it and we can say, okay, I got that wrong, I failed from it. What am I taking from it? What am I learning? What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about the world? What did I learn about other people? But failure, yes, it's a beautiful thing in growth mindset. Intelligence can be developed as well as talents and skills. So I can learn things, doesn't matter how old I am, doesn't matter what my education is. I believe in a growth mindset, I can learn anything. So because of this, people with a growth mindset tend to really genuinely embrace challenges. So fixed mindset, when things get hard, we tend to blame others, blame the system, blame anyone else but us, and give up. Growth mindset, it's like, oh, okay, this is tough, let's keep going. This is hard, what do I need to do differently? Okay, I've failed, what am I going to change? So people with the growth mindset will persist. The fact that it's hard means that it's exciting and encourages me to keep going. And when we receive feedback, we're not thinking of it in those binary terms of negative or positive, good or bad. We just receive all the feedback, and in a growth mindset, you might even think, do you know what? This might not be true, but the feedback is still helpful because it's still going to give me some insight. So it's good because it's helping me to grow. And when other people succeed, fixed mindsets tend to resent that, don't like it, have this belief that there's only a finite amount of success to go around. Growth mindset, it's like, wow, somebody, succeeds, I want a piece of that. What are they doing that I can learn from? How do I grow to be more like that person? So that's the growth mindset. Hopefully you'll have seen yourself in one of those two, probably a bit of both. If you're like me, I can relate to both of them certain times in my life, especially. So we spent a bit of time on the first session just thinking about that. And if you want to, perhaps pause the video now and just answer these questions. You know, where are you? And think about some of the possible consequences of this. So go ahead, press pause, and just jot a few things down. During the session, we had a little look at a couple of case studies, and just to illustrate how the different mindsets will lead to different outcomes. So the first one was supporting Edna. And as an advocate, think about this from advocacy. You find out that she doesn't like where she's living, and you're helping her to move somewhere new. Everyone involved agree that the current home is the best one for her, and they simply refuse to look at other options. And the reason for that is because they've said they've exhausted everything and there just isn't any other options. Now, this is something I see regularly in advocacy. I'm sure you have too. So there's something about, as an advocate, just spend a little bit of time, again, pause the video, identify how you might be feeling if this was you, and then explore, just write a few things down about how would somebody with a fixed mindset approach that? And then how would somebody with a growth mindset? And if you write those things down, you might see how different, you know, advocacy can happen just from the simple what mindset we've got. So go ahead, pause the video and jot a few things down. And then the second case study was slightly different, but I want you to imagine that you've been working with a gentleman called Brian for about 2 years. Brian's autistic and needs a lot of support in the community with planning. He's been very unhappy and his family are worried the care provider not good, and you're currently working to raise certain concerns. Your manager's just told you the care provider submitted a serious complaint against you, alleging that you're acting unprofessionally, siding with the family, making unfounded allegations, and causing trouble between Brian and his paid carers. And again, I want you to think about how you might be feeling when your manager tells you that information. Fixed mindset, we might go into a defensive mode. We might go into a blame frame of mind. We might respond with, you know, almost aggression about, well, you know, I'm going to make my own allegations. I'm going to fire this back. Or you might feel in a fixed mindset, you know, you internalize it and you start to beat yourself up. You start to self-criticize. You start to say, oh, why did I do that? They're right, I'm rubbish. They're right, I'm a bad person. I'm a bad advocate. If I'm being honest, that's where I tend to go. This is a case study loosely based on a number of experiences I've had as an advocate. And my default position when I'm in a fixed mindset is very much to beat myself up and, you know, almost lavish in that kind of self-negative talk. It's very fixed mindset, that approach. And there's nothing wrong with it, but I don't think it serves us. I don't, you know, that's the bottom line. I don't want to beat myself up for doing that. But there's a question here around how differently would I feel and what actions would I take if I kick into a growth mindset? So a growth mindset, I can identify actually as a growth mindset, I wouldn't feel threatened by this because I know it's not true. I know I haven't acted unprofessionally. I know I haven't made unfounded allegations. I would know it's okay to side with the family because I'm an advocate, and it's okay to side with the person I'm advocating with. So in a growth mindset, there's kind of a clarity and a calm and a confidence that it's okay. And then I can start to look at the kind of substance of the complaint. So then I might think, actually, is there anything in this? But I'm coming from it from a growth mindset. I'm asking myself, what do I need to learn? Have I got my communication wrong? In my experience, probably. You know, communication is really difficult. I probably did get my communication wrong. What am I going to learn from that? Does it make me bad? Does it make me a bad advocate? Does it mean I need to resign and go and live in a mountain and not engage with anyone? It just means I need to reflect on what are the little nuggets here for me to take my communication to the next level. I hope that makes sense and gives you a flavour for how useful having a growth mindset might be as opposed to a fixed mindset. As I say, we're going to have 3 sessions now over the next 6 weeks, one every fortnight on a Thursday. And the first one's going to be the 21st of October. And we're going to think about strategies in how to develop a growth mindset. So, just to give you a little bit of a teaser, these are some of the things that we're going to be digging deep into to help us as advocates develop a growth mindset. Hope to see you there.